Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 Virtual Report to Business. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Grab some coffee and a snack and get comfortable. We have an exciting hour ahead of us with many important Monroe County updates provided by your community leaders. We're so pleased to bring this virtual experience right to the comfort of your home or office. If you don't already, please be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube to stay up to date on all things Pocono Chamber. Please be mindful that you have been muted by our host today, so no one can see or hear you at the moment. But don't worry, during the end of the presentation, we encourage you to participate in the live Q&A portion of the event. And you can chat in the chat box the whole time. Please be mindful. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to turn it over to the amazing Ari Luna Grace Van Scoten. If you're able, we ask that you please rise for the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you sing by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
I'd now like to turn it over to our Executive Director, Marlon Kistner, for some welcoming announcements.
Well, good morning, and thank you for being with us virtually for our annual Report to Business program. Thank you to our Monroe County Commissioners, dignitaries, our healthcare leaders, community leaders, and special guests, not only for being here this morning, but for coming together during 2020's uncertainty and unrest. Today, we look to the future and will come together once again as we collaborate to help strengthen our resilient businesses and vibrant communities. On behalf of the Pocono Chamber, we are excited to serve and be a key connector and supporter this year and for many, many years to come. A big heartfelt thank you to the amazing Chamber team, Allison Pickle, Tina Marte, Liz Vlos, and Mike Moreno for taking great care of our members and our businesses, and especially for today's event. I'd also like to thank our chairman, Chris Barrett, for his leadership and future focus, as well as the entire board of directors for all that you do. Thanks again to all of you for being with us today, and enjoy the program.
It is now my pleasure to introduce today's Report to Business presenting sponsor, Lehigh Valley Hospital, Pocono. Thank you so much, Elizabeth Wise, and your entire team for helping us bring today's event to life. We appreciate your continued partnership and support. Now please enjoy this video courtesy of Lehigh Valley Hospital, Pocono.
Going to the second floor, that happened again. I can't breathe and I start sweating, and I said, okay, this is the time where I need to go to see the doctor. Very scary moment.
I remember being in a room with a bunch of people with masks around Nancy, and I didn't know who was the nurse, the doctor, or the cleaning lady. Our doctor just looked at me and he said, this is my name, you can Google me, look my hair, it's white. I've been doing this for many years. Your wife's in good hands. That was like a humor moment. and humor sometimes build bridges.
I think Nancy and Edison is a very good example of a caring couple who is a little unaware of what the community have to offer them. We here in the Pocono have been working for well over 10 years to develop a world-class heart system and provide care that no other hospital in this area can provide.
A big mention to the wonderful nurses.
Oh, yes.
Because the first 24 hours, the nurses didn't move from a room.
Yeah.
They didn't.
One of those, they came every single day, in the morning and the afternoon. You don't see that often. This is my first time when I feel doctor very close to us, worrying about us.
In healthcare, we've shown many, many times that if you have a caring partner, it's a lot easier to go through a lot of these processes. And obviously, that partnership really pays off huge dividends as they go through the course of their illness.
Well, the whole time, I know he always worrying a lot about me. And so the first day, they asked me, yeah, I want to walk. And in my head, I said, I had to walk. I want to tell Eddie, look at me. I'm going through, and you want to go through this too.
Obviously, she was very strong and did very well, and that reassured him as he was approaching his operation that he can get through it also.
It's a very technical operation. It's an open heart. You know, we're in the Pocono. The fact that you guys had that entire program for that was a huge surprise. A great surprise.
We are lucky.
Yeah. And the fact that then she had the operation the same morning, right here.
We do a very important treatment option right now in this part of that disease. We bypass you, or we give you stents, or whatever the options are. But it's very important to beat this disease, to continue to take care of yourself.
All the change we did it together because it was a medical need, plus the emotional support.
When I don't want to walk, he pushed me. Let's go.
And when I don't want to walk, he says, no, we need to go for a walk.
Yes.
I think unique here is we also provide to this community services that no other healthcare service provides.
I did have a heart attack. And believe me, the first few minutes, they're kind of critical. Because part of your heart is dying, you know. So a 45-minute ride, you know, down the valley, maybe it's not the best choice.
It's not, you don't have to leave this community. And again, I'm very proud that we've been really developing this system here for well over 10 years, and it's right here for you.
So the fact that you guys saved my wife's life that Tuesday, that's the reason we're here. We don't work for the hospital. We're happy that you guys are here. The Lee Valley Hospital is here in Poconos because when we had the need, you guys answered the call.
We would also like to recognize and thank Alana Roberts of PPL Electric Utilities for their sponsorship and continued support of the Pocono Chamber, as well as our entire region as a whole. Also, a big shout out to our proud partners, the Greater Lehigh Valley Chamber of Commerce and the Pocono Mountains Visitors Bureau. And without further ado, please welcome Chris Barrett, President and CEO of the Pocono Mountains Visitors Bureau.
Thank you, Michael. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Our organization, our chamber, our Pocono Chamber draws its strength really from two things, from our great members and the great area in which we live, work, and play in, which is one of the best, if not in the state, one of the best in the country. So we thank you so much for being here today. Before we get started, I just wanted to take a moment to thank two groups of really important folks. Number one, our staff. The team there at the chamber really does an incredible job. As we all know, it goes without saying, this has been an incredibly difficult year for all of us. And our chamber team really was there day in and day out to provide support and sometimes just be a friend when a lot of us were really struggling just to get through the day. So I just want to thank them. Marlon, Liz, Michael, Allison, and the whole team from Lehigh Valley who've been great support for us here in the Poconos and has allowed us to really fly. And also too, on the screen, you're seeing some names. There's some new faces on the board. We're really looking forward to have them join us because they're going to create new energy as we bring in new people. So we're really, really glad to have them participate with us and continue to build our organization. So we hope you enjoy the rest of the program. We thank you for being here this morning, and we're looking forward to continuing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Chris, and thank you for your leadership. I'd now like to introduce Elizabeth Wise, President of Lehigh Valley Hospital, Pocono.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today and to provide an update on the latest news from Lehigh Valley Health Network and Lehigh Valley Hospital, Pocono. So you know it comes as no surprise to anyone that the COVID-19 pandemic has devastated not only the healthcare industry, but other industries this past year. However, I want to reassure everyone that Lehigh Valley Health Network and Lehigh Valley Hospital Pocono are strong, and we will come out of this better than ever. We have an incredible team of doctors, nurses, and medical staff who continue to put patients first and provide the best possible care. Despite the recent surge in cases, we have come very far from last spring. We've learned a lot about the virus in this time, and we've implemented many effective treatments to lessen the severity of the disease and increase the survival rate. However, just because we found more effective ways of treating it, it does not make it any less of a threat. It continues to be dangerous and unpredictable. The best hope that we have, and for many of you who have seen me on TV know that I'm a strong advocate of hope, is combating the COVID-19 with the vaccine. We encourage everyone to get vaccinated when it becomes available to you, as vaccinating the entire community is essential to getting back the local economy. At this time, we have vaccinated more than 1,500 colleagues at Lehigh Valley Hospital Pocono and more than 38,000 community members throughout our network. It is important for everyone to know and understand that each state has a different vaccination plan. As directed by the state of Pennsylvania, we are currently vaccinating healthcare workers, first responders, and residents and staff of skilled nursing facilities and long-term care nursing facilities, and those 75 and older. We will also begin a mass vaccination for those 75 and older at Dorney Park next week. According to the Pennsylvania's plan, the next phase would be those who are high risk. This includes those 65 and older and those 16 to 64 taking certain conditions into consideration. For those who would like to see the phased approach to vaccination, please visit the Pennsylvania Department of Health COVID-19 vaccine information page. Here you will find an outline of all the phases. The timeline is not listed as that is dependent on how many vaccines the state receives week to week. There is much information and misinformation out there about the COVID-19 vaccine. We encourage everyone to visit lvhn.org/vaccines for timely and accurate information. On this website, we have information on the availability of community vaccinations, frequently asked questions about vaccine safety, and much more, including information in Spanish. We are committed to administering the vaccine to all members of our community as quickly as possible when it is available to the general public, and we will cover all costs. Please visit mylvhn.org and sign up for an account. Everyone with a MyLVHN account will be pre-registered for a COVID-19 vaccine. By doing this, you will receive notification as to when you are eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine and can schedule your appointment. You do not have to be an existing patient of Lehigh Valley Health Network to sign up for MyLVHN. I want everyone to understand that while the vaccine is a monumental step in bringing an end to this virus, we cannot depend on the vaccine alone. Even after getting vaccinated, we must continue to wear masks, practice social distancing, and wash our hands, because we can still carry and spread the virus to those that have not been vaccinated. If everyone does their part, we can defeat COVID-19 and look forward to better days ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Elizabeth Wise. I would now like to introduce Donald Seipel, President of St. Luke's University Health Network, Monroe Campus.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. And I echo much of what Elizabeth said. Very well said. And, you know, I want to take a moment, first of all, just to really thank Monroe County for all of their support to us during this pandemic. You know, when I came here, I realized how great of a community Monroe was. And this pandemic sure showed it. And the community responded in such a great way, both businesses and individuals, with food and masks and PPE and our first responder appreciation night, prayer service. I mean, it goes on and on, hope rocks and calls and texts. So thank you to all of our community for all that you've done for us. And it was a time, especially in the spring, when we really needed that support. It was a really uncertain time. You know, a little bit about the virus and how it's progressed. You know, in the spring, there was a lot of unknown about the virus. The need on the healthcare systems was in critical care beds. COVID was spreading kind of like a wave, and it was coming for us from New York and New Jersey into Pennsylvania. And so for us as a network, it really affected our hospitals on our eastern end of our service area, Monroe and Anderson and Warren. And you know, we ceased elective procedures. There were shortages of PPE, and we found that people weren't coming to the hospital for elective or for necessary care, such as cardiac and stroke. And because of cancellation of elective procedures, people weren't getting the screenings that they had. And so either missing or delaying treatment of healthcare conditions. They were all concerns in the spring. And as summer came, you know, summer certainly had a positive effect on the virus. We saw less of it. Hospitalizations went down, severity decreased, positivity rates decreased. And it was really, I think, good for all of us. We got outside. And as fall came in mid-November, we really started to see a sharp increase in the virus. And our needs shifted from really critical care beds, although there were still patients in critical care, to our med-surg beds. And the virus really now was in all of our hospitals. They were not just in specific hospitals. And after Thanksgiving, we saw a really a significant bump in COVID patients after Thanksgiving. You know, I think some of the mitigation efforts that were taking place during our Christmas and New Year's worked, because January, we didn't see a bump like we really thought we would have. And so I think that was positive. There's still a significant amount of COVID in our community, but I'm grateful that it didn't go up as much as we thought it would. And then for the future, there's a lot of unknowns, and Elizabeth talked about the vaccine and the importance of that. We've learned a lot. There's still a lot to be known about the virus. And, you know, vaccination, I echo Elizabeth's sentiments in that vaccination is going to be key to getting back to normalcy. Like LVHN, we have a portal. You can go to our MyNet and sign up for our MyChart, and it will allow you to get on a list to be communicated to when you're able to schedule your vaccine, and you don't need to be a patient. And really, I ask you to rely on reliable sources for the vaccine, such as our internet site, the CDC. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and I think many people have gotten the vaccine so far and are doing fine. You know, some of the other things that we've done as a network is, you may have heard about the monoclonal antibodies or infusions, and we've really rolled this out in our network. We've done over 500 of the monoclonal antibodies. We continue to increase our ability to give those to patients, and it's really for specific patients in the beginning phases of their exposure or their positivity to the COVID virus. And it really has been shown to really reduce the effects of COVID on these patients. And so we've really worked hard to put a process in place for the monoclonal antibodies. And if you or a family member think you would be eligible for it, please reach out to your provider and have a discussion with them that we have the ability to deliver that to them. Know that its timeliness is very important. So the sooner in their exposure that it's identified, the more effective the treatments have shown to be. You know, I think within Monroe County, really just thanking all of you, thanking our citizens here. They've done a great job of masking and social distancing. And today, when you look at COVID in its positivity and its in the states across PA and certainly across our region, although it's high in Monroe, it's not nearly as high as it is in some other counties. And I'm hopeful that if we continue the mitigation efforts and we mask and we get the vaccine, that we will see a decline in COVID. We will see a return to normalcy, which is going to take some time. The rollout of this vaccine is going to take months, well into probably spring and summer. There's a lot to be known yet about the rollout of it. We do have some of it in the county to give to the 1A group that has just been expanded, but not nearly enough to even meet the needs of that 1A group. And so there's going to be some frustrations initially, just because it's going to take a while to get more vaccine here in the communities. But rest assured that that will happen, and folks will get protected and have that opportunity. It's just, like I said, it's going to take some time. Really, and just again, thanking the Chamber for their support through COVID. And I really appreciate the time to share a little bit about the vaccine and about St. Luke's. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Don. We also appreciate you. I'd now like to reintroduce Chris Barrett, President and CEO of the Pocono Mountain Visitors Bureau.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for having me as well to give this tourism report. I do have some slides. So if you could go to the first slide, there we are. I wanted to just talk a little bit about where we are right now with tourism in the Poconos. Believe it or not, it's a tale of, it's the best of times and the worst of times in a lot of aspects for us. First, our organization and how we really market tourism outside of the Poconos and actually within is generated through a hotel tax. So the hotel tax is off by about 20% versus 2019 levels. Now, we had originally predicted in March that it would be off by about 50 to 75%. So that's much less than what we had predicted and forecasted. And believe it or not, a lot less than the balance of the state, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Millions and millions of guests are seeking the outdoors. And we saw that almost immediately in March when the state initiated its red phase. Our state and federal parks almost became instantly overrun with two types of folks. One who were rediscovering the Poconos, some who probably hadn't been here in years, and folks who were discovering it. So we saw an influx almost immediately when other destinations saw an outflux. So destinations like Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, which are very heavily dependent on meeting and group business, were decimated almost completely and thoroughly overnight, whereas we saw an increase, which was actually good for us. The one thing I would say, though, is that our group and meeting business, now some of you know, Kalahari just undertook a significant expansion and added convention space, which really over time will be a game changer for us in the sense that we'll be able to compete for group business that would normally go to Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, which is national and to some extent international. However, that business will probably take years to recover because of the travel aspect of it. flying predominantly domestically. So we don't expect that to recover for at least another 2 years, maybe even 3, to get close to where it had been in 2019. So we keep our eyes on that. One of the things that we really concentrated on immediately was becoming a public information officer for our 4 counties, to be a repository of where not only our team members and the members of the Visitors Bureau and our chambers could come to get accurate information, but also our residents. We maintain 2 websites, Pocono Mountains Back's COVID-19 website and a reopening microsite within the Pocono Mountains website, to have that place where anyone could get information quickly and be able to find the right information. Also, too, we instituted a program called the Pocono Promise. 400 businesses, and they don't have to be related to hospitality or tourism, within the 4-county area of Carbon, Monroe, Wayne, and Pike signed that promise. And quite simply, it was a promise to meet and exceed CDC guidelines in mitigation in order to protect team members, as well as the millions of guests that visit any of these businesses throughout the year. So that continues to be a hallmark and a cornerstone of showing our guests that safety and comfort come first, but you can still have fun when you visit the Poconos. But again, safety and comfort of the guest is key. Overall, we're optimistic about 2021. As Dawn and Elizabeth just spoke to, as the vaccine continues to roll out, we feel that domestic travel, especially drive-to travel, first will rebound, which is actually very good for our destination. Because if you were to draw a circle, drop a point within the Poconos and draw a circle of 150 to 100 miles around us, there's some major population areas, which we all know. They will continue to be drivers for us, and they have been so far, since we've advanced from the yellow to green phase in June, and we expect that to continue through 2021. Next slide, please, Liz. Again, one of the things that I wanted to just really emphasize is that going forward, our advertising will emphasize guest safety and comfort. That obviously our team members are participating in it here, but the guest also has some responsibility for that when they visit us. And that's what the Pocono Promise is all about. I would also like to mention that we've just opened a job portal. The job portal first will be rolled out to our membership, but then to the rest of the 4-county area. And we are running a television campaign which just started to advise everyone that the job portal is open, number 1, but number 2, that hospitality is a great career choice and a great place to start, have a career and finish. So you'll be seeing that. Actually, we're running those spots right now. And the job portal spots. So hopefully we're hoping to open that up to the rest of the destination and the rest of our businesses probably within the next month. Also, I wanted to say that we're currently not advertising outside of the state. We're only advertising within the state, which means Harrisburg, Lebanon, Lancaster, York, Philadelphia, our market, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, and Johnstown, Altoona, which we just started advertising in. We really don't want to invite guests to come within our market with the 72-hour test requirement, along with the 10-day quarantine, 14-day quarantine. We just really don't want to do that. We just don't think it's the right thing to do right now. But we are watching the mitigation orders, the Department of Health orders, and when they're lifted, we'll begin to probably advertise in New York again. But right now, actually, as soon as that 72-hour test requirement quarantine was put into place, we did stop advertising outside of the state. Before I hit the last point or cover it, the one thing I really want to say is that you heard from both of our health systems, and we have been working very closely with them to get information out to our communities and also our guests before they come to visit us. And I want to say how fortunate we are to have these systems within the Pocono Mountains. We'll continue to do everything we can from a PSA perspective to get the word out that the vaccines are safe. Because when we get to a certain point, we continue to need to vaccinate people, and they need to understand the safety of it. In our opinion, when Dawn Seipel and Elizabeth Wise say something safe, it's absolutely safe. So we're going to do the best we can to advise everyone that we can within our marketplace that it's safe. And we're very, very grateful to have those 2 folks and these systems right here with us. So thank you to both of them. And along with that, as I close, I want to say that we'll continue to offer services to our communities in any aspects that we can. That means nonprofits. That means if the health systems come to us and ask us to use our resources to advise our residents within our communities of situations, we are more than happy to do that. And we will continue to do it. And also, for example, we're beginning our litter pickup campaigns again as we try to get back to normalcy, to clean up our roadways in our communities. And one of our programs is called Pocono 3C, which I believe is going to start next week, along with the Waste Authority and Jim Lambert's team, along with Street to Feed. So we're really looking forward to getting back to that normalcy once the vaccine is distributed. But we're cautiously optimistic that as we continue to go through 2021, late spring and early summer, that tourism will resume at the levels that it have been before. And again, with the safety and comfort of our team members and guests being our hallmark. So thank you for allowing me to give the update. And Liz and Michael, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you so much, Chris. Looking forward to that litter campaign. I'll now like to introduce the one and the only Chuck Leonard of the Pocono Mountain Economic Development Corporation.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. I'm pleased to be here. I think that we've been somewhat surprised in regard to the activity that we've gone through, I guess recently from people from outside of our marketplace looking into our marketplace for development opportunities. Do we have my first slide? Next slide, please. Let me highlight, what's happening. Next slide, thank you. Let me highlight, new companies that are gearing up to operate in our marketplace. Medline Inc. If you've been down West Route 80, you've seen Medline Inc., which is a distributor and manufacturer of all kinds of medical supplies. They manufacture products for burn units and a variety of. They're doing masks now, and although this facility right now is essentially a distribution operation, they have indicated that they may do some manufacturing there. All-weather insulated panels is presently bringing their equipment into the former Union Metal, United Steel Products, Northwoods paper building. If you're familiar with the 250,000 square feet in Stroud Township, they will be up and running sometime in 2021, and we're very enthused about having a very interesting product, and we're enthused about there will be at least 100 jobs plus there sometime before the end of 2021. So we're very enthused about them choosing. They're a California company, but they're internationally owned. It's a very interesting new business for our marketplace. Next slide, please. We also have benefited from some new construction. All three of these projects that you see here were developed in parks that were funded with the assistance of the County Commissioners of Monroe. Of course, NFI Logistics is the facility that's immediately to the rear of the Johnson & Johnson Sales and Logistics facility in our Arcadia North Business Park. They're up and running. The product is in there. They've moved they were operating out of the Liz Claiborne building and former Liz Claiborne building in one of our older parks. And they're presently, they got their product in and they're moving equipment in, they're moving product in and out, and they're full operation at the facility behind Johnson & Johnson. LPC is the building that, if you've been to the top of the mountain, is the building that's immediately to the rear of the Walmart retail facility, a 750,000 square footer that is under construction, and we anticipate a completion date of this year, and hopefully some jobs will be coming to fruition there. And also the Messer project, which we've talked about in the past. They slowed the project somewhat, but they are putting the foundations in and swinging into full construction, and we will see new jobs there in this year. We're very pleased about them locating here. Now, all these projects, like I said, were completed in parks that were financed with the assistance of the county commissioners, and we were able, as a result of these projects, to repatriate about $2.5 million back to the county coffers, and thanks for their assistance. So it was in regard to that issue, a good year. Next slide, please. We've acquired some additional funding this year recently. One of the issues in our parks, we've worked very hard to bring natural gas service there, and this new natural gas line that we received some funding with the assistance of Maureen and John Blake, and it will help us extend the gas service to the LPC facility that you saw in the previous slide. We got a grant for the Business Education Partnership that the Pathways program that's presently underway. We think it's a critical program in regard to creating workforce for the future. We also received approval of a Pennsylvania Infrastructure Bank loan from PennDOT for the Smithfield Gateway project. And recently, we received approval of a number of redevelopment assistance capital program grants, and they're listed there. $1 million for the Monroe County Historical Association, $2 million for the Pocono Family YMCA, $1 million or $2 million for Santa Fe Pasteur, and $1 million for a new road in one of our parks that will, and I can't talk about it yet, but will result in a new project that will bring new jobs to Monroe County. We hope in 2021, or in any event by 2022. So it's been a very active year, and we have to thank our legislative delegation for their assistance in acquiring those grants that requires them to work hard for us. Mario, Maureen, Rosemary, and Jack all were very helpful in making sure that those monies came home to Monroe County. Next slide, please. Of course, we've been very busy in regard to providing assistance for COVID-19. We list there some of the programs that we were involved in. You can see the numbers. We had 11 loans for the COVID Working Capital Program, the Hazard Pay Program, the CARE Small Business Grants. We processed loans. In all, we responded over 300 inquiries from business, and we continue to do that. And I think that we have some programs, some of our regular programs are being used in some cases. So it's added a additional challenge for us in regard to our staff time, but something very critical. And I think that we're hoping that there's another tranche coming. Next slide, please. And what's coming in 2021, of course, the Smithfield Gateway project. We have, we know of 3 manufacturers on our marketplace that are planning expansions. We're working on 3 of those. We're extending a gas line and water line to help facilitate 2 of those. And I think that all in all, it looks like a fairly good year. Like I said, our inquiries are up. It's been busy, and I think that some of the pent-up demand, I think, will ultimately benefit us in 2021, and hopefully, as one of the indications that we get from most of our manufacturing employees, that it's they perceive a labor shortage, and I think it's something that I think once people get comfortable again with going back to work, I think as a result of the pandemic, I think we'll see some job growth in Monroe County in regard to the manufacturing arena and also commercial, industrial. As you know, I could go on, but I want to thank the Chamber for allowing me to participate. Appreciate it, and I can't say enough about the quality staff that at the Chamber. They're top professionals. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chuck. I would now like to introduce Robert Sterrett, broker and owner of RE/MAX Commercial Partners.
Well, good morning, and thank you for inviting me. When Michael first called me to speak, I thought, how can I, in a few short words, capture the essence of the state of the local commercial market? First, I wanted to say we're recovering. It's probably a little too optimistic. Then I wanted to say we're resilient. We are, but not that much yet. I finally came up with one word that I think captures it all, and that is we are disrupted. And of course, everything is disrupted right now in life. We're busy. The commercial market is busy. We're getting a lot of interest, as Chuck said, from outside, but there's nothing easy. All the easy projects were done. To give you a sense of just how disrupted the commercial market has been, I'll give you one statistic. In the year before the pandemic, 2018, 2019, the commercial market total sales dollar volume ranged between $14 and $16 trillion nationally. The third quarter of 2020, as compared to the third quarter 2019, the dollar volume was down 43%. Do the quick math, that's over $60 trillion in lost revenue, lost sales. That's kind of the macro view. If we look more locally, it's a little bit of a different picture. It's kind of a mixed bag. The problem we have with commercial real estate is we're made up of a number of different sectors. It's not like the residential market, which is kind of monolithic and they're just talking about housing. We have the multifamily, the office area, industrial, manufacturing, retail, and of course the hotel lodging thing up here. So what I first wanted to talk about is what are the dynamics that we see most affecting the commercial marketplace? Well, obviously the pandemic is the number one on the list. It simply shut us down in mid-March, and our business, the commercial business, has not fully recovered. We're still operating on a limited basis like everybody else. The other thing that has impacted the local market, commercial properties, was the reassessment. While it worked out fairly well for the residential market, the brunt of the tax increases hit the commercial property owners. And unfortunately, it had a terrible time because they're seeing lost revenue from their businesses, or the tenants are having problems, paying the rent, that sort of thing. So they're doing some suffering. We saw a couple of other things happen over the last couple of years that have impacted the area significantly. We saw a migration of the strongest, best tenants to the Route 611 corridor, all the new things that are being built out there. The consequence of that is all the outlying areas where a lot of the small community shopping centers and things are, the tenant base is a lot weaker. So if you ride around, you look at all the small shopping centers, there's always one or two vacancies in there. But everything really began in March. And the biggest problem that we're facing in the commercial market has been everything is backed up. The banks are backed up processing loans. This weekend, I took an application in for a new building project, and they told me quite honestly, they're not even going to process it for 6 weeks. They're tied up with the PPL loans, forbearances, and all the other things that slow down the banks. New loans are simply on the back burner, and that makes it tough for our business because everything is taking 3 times as long to get done. The other problem we faced locally is all of the processing elements, all those other agencies, people that play into the process of completing a commercial transaction are backed up. Title companies are taking 3 times as long to get title work completed. Appraisers are behind weeks. The state agencies are slow to get higher occupancy permits or NDPES permits, and they're still not fully functioning. I will say the local governments have done a better job. I was in front of Chestnut Hill this past week, got a variance for a project. They worked well with it. I have to congratulate most of the local towns. They've got the ordinances online now, and people understanding the process better. But the market's disrupted. So let's take a look quickly at some of the different sectors and how they're doing locally. The multifamily market has done fairly well. Obviously, there's a big demand for apartments in the area, and the vacancy rates have gone down. The occupancy rates are way up. But the rental rates have gone up more than the national average. Also, you have to look at that relative to the mean income, but there's a demand for multifamily, for apartments. The office leasing market has stayed, I would say, constant. We still have a lot of interest despite the pandemic. It's running about where it was. The occupancy rates are actually about the same. The industrial market, we don't have a large industrial base here in the Monroe County area. The Valley has done well. with their, as Chuck said, we have a few new projects that have helped. The retail, if you're online, you're doing pretty good. The in-house stores obviously, got clobbered. The restaurant business has been destroyed. Restaurant businesses work on a 25% margin of profit, typically. When you're only allowed to have 75% occupancy, you're at best breaking even, but it's 50%, you're hemorrhaging, you're dying. I think we're going to lose 20% of the restaurants. They will recover over time, but it's going to be a long time. The thing to understand from the commercial market up here is that we have two markets. We have the weekday market and we have the weekend market. Weekday market, small businesses, service industries have held their own. Everybody's adjusted and trying to survive. The weekend market, obviously, as Chris has mentioned, we just don't have the number of people surging into the area. What's the future going to be? I'm optimistic for 2021. There's a lot of interest. The projects just take longer, more complicated. I think we'll recover, but it's going to take time. Thank you for having me. We'll go from there.
Thank you so much, Robert. Truly appreciate that report. I would now like to introduce our county commissioners, the chair, Sharon Laverdure, the vice chair, John Moyer, and our commissioner, John Christy.
Hi, my name's John Christy. I'm here to announce that it's time to get started on our building project here in Monroe County. We have a large project for a new courthouse. We're going to be renovating our annex and the original courthouse. This is a almost 3-year process, and we're going to walk you through it. Since I've been a commissioner, we have been looking at an expansion of our courthouse facilities. This has been happening for years before that. We had architects hired 10 years ago to look at this project. We stopped that because of we felt that we needed more information. We had a study done from an organization in Colorado that came in and looked to see how the court proceedings, how the workflow, how all the information that happens over at the courthouse, and how could that be consolidated into a more concise program and have the ability to project into the future what our needs would be. From that study, we tested that when we hired our architectural firm, CGL from New York City. CGL took that study, went back and did even more interviews with all the departments in the courthouse, and they were able to prove that we were on the right track. Our next step was that we hired William H. Lane out of Binghamton, New York. William H. Lane has done a number of projects here in Monroe County, mostly for the Stroudsburg School District and the Walmart Distribution Center up in Coolbaugh Township. We have numerous meetings about how we should be able, with the property that we own in Stroudsburg, to facilitate this project. We looked at the lot that we own on the corner on 6th Street, and then we also looked at the lot that we own beside the Annex and PNC Bank. We decided that we could not bifurcate the services, so what we decided to do was to purchase the PNC Bank property, which we did. In the beginning of April, we will be starting to raise that building, and the project can start. We are at this point ready to go out for bidding. We should have our plans all done this week, and we look to get our project on the street probably next week or 2 weeks from now. Oftentimes we look to do this project, for bidding processes during the winter months so that you can get a better sampling of contractors that would be looking for work for the spring and summer. This will be approximately a 3-year project. One of the things that we had to look at is what do we do with the people in the courthouse while we're doing this, because we have to renovate the annex and the original courthouse. The thing you have to keep in mind is that the annex was built almost 40 years ago, and structurally it is sound, but mechanically it's very tired. We did a study, we do studies on all our buildings, and we knew that we were going to be spending between $10 and $15 million on the annex in the next 5 years. So we figured while we were doing this project, we would bring everything up to current code and to efficiency. So the first part of the project is the building of the new courthouse. That courthouse will have 6 courtrooms in it. It will also have new facilities for the sheriff, so that we'll have a safe, what we call Sully Port, where our incarcerated people will be able to be safely moved up to the courtrooms. And then from after we're done with that, then we have to go in and renovate the annex and the original courthouse. So what do we do with all those people? Well, what we're looking to do is to do some renovations at the Ramsey School, a block up 6th Street, so that what we can do is put 2 departments up there. We're looking to move probation and domestic relations up to the Ramsey School while we're renovating their areas. Now, a lot has to come in, a lot of things have to come into play. We have to be able to communicate with both those buildings. And so what we've done is we've reached out to our IT department. Our IT department is looking to do what we call an air bridge, and we're going to be able to connect Ramsey with our admin building, and then we'll be able to connect our admin building to the courthouse. The courthouse still needs to have connectivity. All that connectivity comes from our building here in the admin center. So we have decided to take a belts and suspenders approach to that. We're going to have an air bridge, and we're going to run a new fiber line. All these little pieces come together for this big project. And we have a timeline, if we can bring that up, and you'll see on that the processes as we go through. We have a slide up that shows that we have a bidding process that starts on the 18th, and then we have the bank demo that will start on April 5th. Contracts will be awarded on the 15th. We have phase 1 addition. You'll see that that is a 460-day process. And then we have to renovate the first floor of the courthouse, the annex at that time also. And then we go to the 3rd floor of the annex. We move to Ramsey on about September of 2022. And then we finish the project right at the end of the year of 2023. You're asking yourself, what's this going to look like? Well, if you've gotten our newsletter, you've been, this is not new to you, but we have some slides we'll show you. If you look, you can see the entrances. These slides here are taken from the Monroe Street side. It shows the new entrance to the courthouse. We have a raised entrance. We have figured out that what we'd like to do is that will be considered like a public space, so concerts can be held there. So we're going to make sure that we have electricity for everyone. Next, we can show you a 6th Street side. You can see that working with the Borough of Stroudsburg, what we were able to do is give you some relief of, so it doesn't look like one contiguous building. You'll see that it's been broken up to look like 3 different buildings. And then we can go to what you'd see from Sarah Street. The old entrance to the courthouse will no longer be used. That'll become grass. And the well that you might have walked down to or seen is going to be filled in. The interesting thing is that as you see the steps that lead up to the entrance, that is we have to work off the original elevation of the historic courthouse, because that matches the annex. So what we have to do is come up off the street level approximately 6 to 8 feet so that our elevation is at that same elevation. As you can see, this is a big project. Our estimate is about $75 million. So we're going to get to it. Thanks for your attention. I appreciate your time. My name's John Christy, Monroe County Commissioner.
Good morning, and thank you to the Chamber for this opportunity to share important and timely information during these challenging times. Before COVID-19 even existed, Monroe County Commissioners have understood and acknowledged the need for enhanced broadband and cell phone capability. Along with our beautiful peaks and valleys, rivers and trails come voids and gaps in service coverage. We are aware that businesses thrive and grow in an environment of cutting-edge communication. So how do we get there, and what does that look like? Our first step working through our Planning Commission was to develop and circulate a countywide survey that focused on broadband and cellular service levels experienced by county residents and businesses. In order to make the public aware of the survey, I've requested the county place the survey on its website and social media, which should be done by Friday of this week. In addition, the county collaborated with municipalities, numerous county agencies, East Stroudsburg University and Northampton Community College, our school districts, as well as our legislative delegation to get the survey link out to the public. This was a start, and I'm looking forward to more opportunities in the future. The survey was designed to accomplish three main objectives: to identify internet providers and experience service speeds, identify cell phone providers and experience service levels, and location of survey submission. Additional qualitative data was also collected in an attempt to gain further information regarding the capability of the in-house equipment or setup. The data results can and will be used to form policy decisions related to broadband and cell phone infrastructure investment. At the conclusion of the survey, which lasted approximately 8 weeks through July and August, the county received responses from 1,568 residents and 102 businesses. Following our objectives, the survey recorded who the service provider was, the level of service, and the location of the survey. This allowed the Planning Commission to map out the survey results throughout the county. And as you can see, the information from the slide, and something that I found most interesting, average cell service was 2.28 bars of service. Also, an online dashboard was created which gives our county a place to start in our broadband and cell phone enhancement goal. Not only is Monroe County concerned about broadband quality and availability, just recently, CCAP, which stands for County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania, has just announced broadband expansion as one of their 5 top priorities for 2021 in our great state. It's also important to mention that Penn State Extension is in the process of gathering broadband and cell phone data, along with the location where new towers have been erected across Pennsylvania. We are looking forward to this information as soon as it becomes available to help with the planning for our county. My final thoughts today: moving forward in order to enhance growth and economic development, private-public partnerships will need to be developed. It is imperative that government and industry can collaborate for the greater good to address the broadband and cellular needs of our residents and businesses. Thank you for your attention and looking forward to the future.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to address you. It's sort of strange. The first time I gave this presentation, I was given an hour and a half. Now I'm down to 5 minutes, so I think somebody confused me with Chuck Leonard. But regardless, my responsibility, or what I've been asked to talk about today, is the county budget, the county's financial condition, and how we use the COVID-19 relief grant money. So here goes, and I promise not to bore you with too many details. For the county, the most important thing for most of you is that there's been no tax increase this year or 2021. And it is the 9th straight year without a tax increase. So we've been able to maintain our revenues and expenses to the point where there's been no need to increase taxes, which is always good. This year we adopted a budget of $114.3 million compared to approximately $108.4 million last year. We have 3% factored in for our employees in terms of wage increases for non-union members of our staff. Our health insurance rates remain the same for the 3rd consecutive year, which is a major accomplishment that is due largely to the way that our employees use the health care plan. And if you could, put up slide number 1, which is a pie chart of the way that money will be spent this coming year. And it hasn't changed dramatically from the way that it has worked in the past. But I would point out that if you take courts and court-related expenses, that makes up about 28%, a little bit over 28% of our overall expenditures, followed by human services, which are areas like children and youth, Pleasant Valley Manor, the Area Agency on Aging, and Mental Health Developmental Services. That makes up about 25% of our overall budget. And finally, corrections makes up nearly 15%, 14.6% of the overall budget. And I would point out, as I have in the past, that those 3 expenditure categories make up more than 2/3 of the money that we are responsible for using on behalf of the county. The other slide, the next slide I'd like to take a look at is our overall use of fund balance and where our fund balance is, because that's an indication of the strength of the financial condition of the county. First thing I would point out is in 2011, we had a fund balance that was slightly less than $100,000 on a budget of approximately $100 million, and that clearly was not sufficient. Over the years, we've been able to build it. You'll see that in the last 2 years, or actually 2020, we used approximately $2.5 million of fund balance to balance the budget, and we anticipate using about $9 million next year to balance the budget. So over the course of nearly 10 years, our fund balance has built to the point where we've been able to maintain the same budget through the use of fund balance. The other thing that does not have a slide, but people are consistently concerned with what the nature of our long-term debt is, and I'm happy to report that our long-term debt is very low and very short. Now, this is due to change next year because, as Commissioner Christy pointed out, we're about to undertake a major reconstruction of the courthouse, and we're going to have to borrow a substantial amount of money next year to begin paying for that. But even with that borrowing, our long-term debt really only goes out to 2035, which is a relatively abbreviated period of time. I'd like to shift gears and get into the COVID block grant a little bit. In April or May of this year, we realized that small businesses were going to be hurting in terms of revenue and expenses related to COVID. And at that point, we made available to the Industrial Development Association $500,000 that we wanted to loan to small businesses. Our idea was that if we could provide $20,000 to each business that needed it at a very modest rate of 1% interest rate, that it might help them get over the first phase of COVID, and here we are in the second phase of COVID. Well, lo and behold, in June of this year, we were apprised of the fact that we were getting approximately $15.4 million to use for a variety of things. At the time we received that, there were 12 businesses that were in the process of trying to borrow the $20,000 that we allocated to each of them. We immediately stopped that and asked them whether they wanted to convert a $20,000 loan into a $20,000 or more grant. And not surprisingly, each of them decided that they would like to do that, so they had no long-term obligation to the county. DCED in Pennsylvania gave us guidelines for how this money was to be used, and it was sort of a smorgasbord. One of the first things was direct county response, including how are we going to prepare the county to deal with subsequent phases of COVID. A second area was assistance to municipalities. A third was small and tourist-related businesses. A fourth was providing broadband service to underserved and unserved areas of the county. And the fifth one was assistance to nonprofit and veterans organizations. We believe that our first obligation was to take care of the county preparedness. And with that, we bought our share of personal protective equipment. We put a lot of glass partitions up in offices to protect our employees and the people who were coming in to transact business. But we also spent quite a bit of money on our digital infrastructure because it was rather mediocre prior to the COVID grant. This helps us in a number of areas, one of which is conducting Zoom meetings, allowing our people to work from home, and also giving members of the community the opportunity to transact business without coming in person. So there was quite a bit of money there. The next item on our agenda was really small and tourist-related businesses, and we were at something of a loss here in terms of how to structure it. We didn't want to provide huge grants to certain large businesses with the idea that we would then have no money to provide to mom and pop or small businesses. So we picked a number. We said we're willing to provide grants in the amount of $50,000 to those who qualify. We didn't know how many would request the money, but we took a chance over 3 successive iterations of the grant process. We put that out there only to find out that not as many businesses applied for assistance as we thought would. So if you could put up the slide that shows the number of entities that applied for or received money. And there you will see where the largest category of grant requests and grant applications was small and tourist-related businesses. We gave money to approximately 195 small and tourist-related businesses. Next, at 49, were nonprofit organizations and veterans organizations. And then third behind that are municipal and community organizations, such as the townships, so that they could prepare for the second wave of COVID, and also industries like the Monroe County Transportation Authority. After that, we gave money to a few educational institutions, and then you'll see that the county, there is only one county, the county got money as well. The next slide, if you will, shows the amount of money given to each of those categories. And again, you'll see that the businesses received approximately $5.9 million out of the $15.4 million that we had. Second was the county at $4.3 million. The third was municipal and community organizations at approximately $2.1 million. Then educational institutions at nearly $2 million. And finally, nonprofits at approximately $1.2 million. So that's how the money was divided. And I will tell you that there were 3 major problems that we encountered in distributing this money. The first was the timing. All of this money had to be expended by December 30th of 2020. The second was sketchy and changing information from DCED as to how this money was to be spent. Initially, if a business had received a PPP loan, they were not entitled to this, and halfway through the process, that guidance changed. And third was the ability to reach businesses. I firmly believe that there are businesses in Monroe County that could have and would have profited from getting some of this money that we had available to them. As it turns out, late in the year, meaning like December 28th and 29th, we were between a rock and a hard place in how to spend the money, and we had two options: use it for county expenses or send it back. And not wanting to ever send money back to either Harrisburg or Washington, we applied it against some of the expenses that were previously not covered in the county. And that is truly unfortunate in that more than $1 million was used in that way. And that is money that very well could have been used by small and tourist-related businesses. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. And if you've got questions, please get them to the moderator.
Thank you so very much, Commissioners. We appreciate the time you have given us and look forward to the progress to be made in 2021 and beyond. I will now pass it over to my colleague, Liz Blows, who will open up the floor for some Q&A.
We invite all of today's attendees to the opportunity to ask questions for your commissioners. So to ask questions, you will see a Q&A icon on the bottom of your Zoom screen. You can click on that Q&A icon and ask any questions for the commissioners. So at this time, we do open up the floor for any questions for your commissioners. All right, so any questions for the commissioners, please go ahead and put them in the Q&A box. Commissioners, if you're able to unmute, we are going to start asking you some questions. So our first question of today.
All right, our first question is for Sharon Laverdure. The audience would like to know if the link that you spoke about during your presentation is now available on the Monroe County website.
Commissioners, you are muted, so we're just going to ask that you unmute so our audience can hear you. Commissioners, you're still muted on your end. So in the meantime, if anyone has any questions, again, we do encourage you to put those in the Q&A box. There we are. We can hear you now, commissioners.
Okay, we got it.
Perfect.
Okay.
So Mike is going to reread that first question for you.
Thank you.
So that first question will be for Sharon, and the audience is interested in knowing if the link you spoke about during your presentation is now available on the Monroe County website.
Yes, and I will double check as soon as we're done. Planning Commission said they were going to post it today and through our website. So we'll double check on that as soon as we're done. So as of Friday, it was supposed to be posted.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sharon. The next question is going to be for Commissioner John Christy. An audience member would like to know if there will be rooms within the new courthouse expansion for local businesses to utilize, and if not, would you consider?
John just had to leave for a second, but at this point, that has not been a consideration, but it's something we certainly could talk about.
All righty. And I do have one more question for Commissioner Christy, as he did speak to an air bridge. Someone is curious to know if that bridge is going to be physical.
No. This is Moyer. The air bridge is not physical and it's temporary. It's to get communications back and forth from the courthouse / administrative or annex to the administrative center where our IT department is. And it's temporary in that there will be buried underground fiber eventually connecting the two areas.
Thank you so much. And then our next question, again, Commissioner Moyer, is for you. And that is, can John Moyer give more detail on the funds given out to municipal and community based on organizations and how much is being solely used for county expenses?
I missed the first part of the question, but how much is being used for county expenses was shown in the slide that I used. I think it was the fourth one. And as I pointed out, it's unfortunate because we did not intend for it to be used in that way. We really intended for it to be given to businesses. But when we got to the point of having no more businesses that qualified and requested it, we were stuck with, well, what do we do with the money? And the thought was we could use it for expenses that qualified by the county. We had not anticipated that they would be funded through the block grant, but that's how essentially we used the money. It was $4,279,185.
Thank you so much. And just a reminder to our audience, we will share today's presentation with all of you, so you will be able to reference back to those slides that were given during the presentation. I don't believe we have any more questions, so I'll give it a couple more seconds. If any of our attendees have any questions for our commissioners, we welcome you to put them in either the chat or the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. All right, so I don't believe we have any more questions. If anyone in our audience does have any questions, we encourage you to send them over to your chamber staff, and we are happy to get an answer for you. So no more questions today. I would just like to thank you all again for joining us for today's Report to Business program. The recordings of the program will be housed on our chamber's YouTube channel, so you're all welcome to share the recording with your network as well as play them back at your leisure. A big thank you to our speakers today. Monroe County is truly lucky to have such fantastic community leaders to help us through all the highs and lows we've encountered lately. We're so grateful that you were able to join us virtually to deliver your updates. To our commissioners, we appreciate your partnership on this event and look forward to collaborating again with you soon on future projects and initiatives. We hope that everyone in the audience is available to join us next month on February 26th for the legislative update, where we will be joined by Monroe County state senators and state reps. Registration for the event for legislative update is now open. The chamber is here to serve you and the entire Monroe County business community. We hope to see you either virtually or in person very soon. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. This does conclude today's Report to Business program.